Alright, so welcome to your no-nonsense guide on Warhammer 3. So this is going to be like a beginner series for, well, beginners. If you're barely starting off in the game, welcome. I think the easiest one to start off with is, well, the Empire. The Empire is a very easy faction to play. Once you've mastered the Empire's playstyle, you've mastered pretty much every other playstyle, if I'm being completely honest. The way that I would describe playing the Empire is kind of like a jack of all trades, right? You have a little bit of infantry, you have a little bit of cavalry, you have a little bit of range units, you have a little bit of archers as well as gun units, you have a little bit of artillery, you have pretty much everything except beasts and like monsters. Actually, I take back the beasts because you guys do have access to, or not you guys, but the Empire does have access to griffins, which can be considered beasts. However, in terms of like large monsters, the Empire has no such thing. So, my favorite Empire legendary lord is Balthazar Gelt. Balthazar Gelt does not start in the Empire per se. He actually starts in the lands of Grand Cathay. It's a little bit of a different starting point. However, considering the fact that they also have Grand Cathay as a starting point, it's okay. We can definitely start with Balthazar Gelt in Cathay. It's a beginner-friendly area. And if you guys want to know where the Empire is at compared to like where the Great Bastion in Grand Cathay is, which is pretty much the Great Wall of China in this world. So, really quickly, the Empire is here. All of this like pretty much all of this up here and here encompasses the Empire, this little circle. Up here we get into Kislev. Here's the donut that we like to call. It has a particular, it's called Ultuan, I believe, and this is where all of the high elves live. Where we're going to be starting at is Cathay. We're starting way far away. Now, Gelt's campaign is a little bit interesting because Gelt has the ability to go back to the Empire after like a set number of things that are completed. However, since we want to keep this a little bit more easy, we're going to use Balthazar Gelt in Cathay. I will explain certain things that are specific for the legendary lord that we have chosen right now, and other things that are more faction-wide, and then things that are just generic across all factions pretty much. So without further ado, let's jump right in. This is a series that I've been wanting to start for a very long time now, just because I have a lot of friends that they bought Warhammer, but they don't really understand it because there is a lot to learn, you know. It's completely understandable. Warhammer can be one of those games where it's a lot to get into, like to start. Once you're starting, though, in my opinion, it's like really rewarding. It's one of the most rewarding games that you could possibly play. Hence why I want to teach people how to play this game. Plus, I love this game. I have more than like 1,000 hours in this game, and why not share something that I love with everybody, right? So then everybody can love it, and we can grow as a community. So every campaign has this little like monologue in the beginning where he like says something. Yeah, so might and magic are mine to command. Okay, so very quickly, let's go over some of the simple things that are across every faction. One thing that I will say about this campaign, we don't start with a starting settlement. That is very different to all other campaigns. However, Gelt will... I'll take the first settlement in a little bit, and then we can talk about like things as we go. Really quickly, let's go over faction-wide. What's across the board with every single faction. Okay, so across the board with every single faction, you have upkeep, right? You see the little red, it says 1639, that's your army upkeep. What does that mean? Well, each turn, that will be subtracted from your income. So 3,000, right? is our income per turn. 16,039 is what we're using for upkeep. Subtract that per turn, we get 1361 back. That's our income per turn. What does that allow us to do? That allows us to get more units in our army, because units in our army also have upkeep cost. It says 263, 213, 119, 250. Okay. And then we have our Empire Captain. So now let's talk about some things that are kind of just for Gelt. Gelt has the access of Arcane Essays. With Arcane Essays, he can use the Colleges of Magic, which is a mechanic only for Gelt. Gelt can use a variety of different things within this. So, Gelt can get a Gold Wizard, which we are probably going to do. Gelt himself is a Gold Wizard, so we're not going to get one. Right now, at least. We'll probably get one later on. So, let's go ahead. Oh, because we don't have a settlement quite yet. Okay, let's jump into battle. So really fast, Gelt's campaign is pretty straightforward. We're going to attack Zhong soon. Okay, we're not going to jump into battle formations quite yet. We're just going to auto-resolve it for sake of time. Okay. Typically, you would always want to fight the first battle, but since we're trying to do something, we're not going to do that. Okay, so each battle you get some experience. With that experience, you're able to go into the skill tree. Within the skill tree, you are able to do a variety of different things. Typically, the blue line here is all campaign focused. So upkeep costs, campaign movement, that typical stuff. And you can go through it on your own time. Typically, the first one's always Route Marcher, which gives you bonus movement, right? The last one really depends on who you're playing. So see, upkeep minus 8% for the Lord's Army. So that's pretty huge. So it's 8% less for the entirety of the army. It's a pretty big move. The second one is pretty much your battle prowess, or how well your units do in battle. So see, it's like melee attack plus 6 for spearmen, and so forth. And that's the whole skill line here. This tree is very dependent on which legendary lord you're playing. These two are very similar across the board towards most factions' legendary lords. However, this one right here, right, changes. If your lord is more of a melee lord, it's going to have more melee traits. So it's going to boost his armor, it's going to boost his damage, his melee defense, melee attack, weapon strength, things of that sort. However, Gelt is a wizard, so we get spells across this tree. So we get to unlock more spells, as well as like Arcane Conduit, which gives us more Winds of Magic. This line is kind of, again, more dependent on which legendary lord you pick. It gives them more like boost towards the lord. This one kind of varies also. If these are your spells that you get, or like your damage, these are like certain little perks that you get as a legendary lord. On the top of here, you usually get these mounts. And that's pretty much it for this part. You have your quest battles, but that's something completely different. We'll go over that probably in another video. So very quickly, let's upgrade. Oh, and then we have heroes. So again, the bottom line pretty much improves your campaign. So the campaign is, just really quickly, this is your campaign. So anything to do with like moving around and doing things in this screen, that is what that line is for. Or, yeah. The next one is, again, so see how this guy is more of a melee kind of like focused character. So this campaign is all about, this line is all about just improving his traits, wound maker, weapon strength, hit points, leadership, things like that. The next one is also more about like just adding little perks towards him, and then upkeep costs, which is really good. And then you have your steeds up here and more things as well. Let's go into battle, and then we'll talk about how to actually battle. Okay, so we auto-resolved our first fight. You typically don't want to do that. The reason for that is because the very first fight is the most important fight in the game. However, Balthazar Gelt is kind of broken, which is kind of why I recommend everybody to play Balthazar Gelt. He's one of my favorite personally, but I think he's also a really good legendary lord. I'm not going to get into the lore because that can be saved for another video. So some of the like formations that I like using for the Empire, and this is across the board, they all have the same units. I like to have obviously my infantry at the very front. I like having these guys kind of like spread out in a little checkerboard pattern. There's no real reason for it. And then obviously our artillery. I do something funny with the artillery. I like having my artillery like towards like the corners. I don't know why. It's just personal preference at that point. And then my hero. Okay, so something really fast to consider. Your hero has this little blue line. That blue line gives leadership towards your troops. See blue line as well. Our Empire Knights are not within that because our Empire Knights will be doing something different altogether. Alright, let's start the battle. So let's go ahead and move forward. So our units all move forward. The way I did that, I just highlighted. So it's kind of like how on Windows you just kind of click the this button here and you hold it. If you highlight over your troops, you're able to just move them. You can also hold it and move it like that so you have more control of where they're actually going. Let's move that as well. These guys are going to flank. So I'm going to have them way over there, and I'm going to have them do that. The way you do that is I left click, put them there, and then I hold shift and click over here. So I do 2 clicks. And that gives them 2 commands. Go there first, and then go there second. All right. Our artillery is doing quite well. I'm waiting for them to shoot. There we go. Cool. So we're taking some damage there. Let's use one of Gelt's powers here. Let's use it on them right there. So this is Searing Doom. It's one of the things that makes Gelt really good. He is a spellcaster. We do quite a lot of damage there. That was a really good hit. The other thing that Gelt can do is called Plague of Rust. We can take armor away from these people. So you see how they have around 70 armor? Let's take that away. Now they have 40. Our Empire Knights are switching around. They're coming around now. Oh, Gelt's getting attacked. Let's move Gelt back. Let's go ahead and drop Searing Doom right on top of these units. It might get a little bit of my units as well, but overall the trade-off will be a lot better. They'll take more damage than my units. There you go. Gelt's still getting attacked. You can check the range by highlighting over them. My Empire Knights are coming from the rear. They finally spotted them. It might be too late for them though. My Empire Knights are coming quite quickly. Coming at 78 speed. They only have 34 speed, just so you guys can see up here. They're not going to be able to get away. Cool. My Empire Knights were able to cycle. Let's go ahead. There's shock cavalry as well, so let's move them back. And then let's bring them back so they're able to hit another cycle. This should break their flank as well. Cool. Let's move them there. We have one more Searing Doom. So let's go ahead and drop that on my archers. Their archers. Good. Let's tell our artillery to stop because it might start to damage our own troops if they start attacking here. Cool. Shock cavalry has been done. Let's move that there. Let's bring my Empire Knight back. Let's move these guys back because they're not doing anything. And perfect. We have just won our first battle in 2 minutes and 39 seconds. Decisive victory. Beautiful. Not too bad. I will say that we are playing on very hard very hard campaign and very hard battle difficulty. For the battle difficulty, that is the highest difficulty that it goes up to. For campaign, there is also legendary. However, I've noticed that it just adds a lot of very kind of not fun things to the game. I won't talk about it in this video, but just keep that in mind. So once we actually take a settlement, we can occupy it, loot and occupy, which means we destroy everything, get some gold out of it and replenishment. We can sack it, so just strip it and then leave. The enemy remains with the settlement. It's just all the buildings are destroyed. Or we can raise it. We can completely destroy the settlement and nobody gets it. Not the enemy and not us. We're going to go ahead and occupy it. Okay. So this right here is actually just for Balthazar Geld's campaign. You have these things that pop up. In his campaign, you're going to be helping Zhao Ming, which is the Iron Dragon, which he's somewhere on the top side of the map. So what can we do? The Temple of Elemental Winds instantly upgraded to tier 2. We can demand supplies. We can have diplomatic relations with the Western provinces, a welcoming people. Or we can decline, get gold. And Zhao Ming will remember this, -10 with the Western provinces. We're going to go ahead and upgrade our Elemental Winds building.
I am ready.
So now our settlement is tier 2. These tiers are important because the higher the tier, the stronger building we can get. See how that's tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. So since we're not at the highest tier, we cannot recruit some of the stronger units. However, keep this in mind. We occupied a minor settlement. Minor settlements only go up to tier 3. So we're only ever going to have tier 3 units at the settlement. If we want tier 5 units, we need to capture their main settlement, which is way over here.
So, let us begin.
Cool. So what do we want here? I think artillery is the way to go. Yeah, artillery. We might be okay with getting pistoliers. So this is where, okay. So this is a very interesting decision to make. It really depends on where you're at in the campaign map. So for Geld, he's surrounded by a lot of enemies that have armor. Sometimes you'll be surrounded by enemies that have no armor. Like in the beginning of the game, the vampire counts have no armor. So you wouldn't ever have to build buildings that have armor-piercing units because it'd be a waste. You would go for more high-damaging units. However, because we are around places or enemies that have armor, we need armor-piercing units. So because of that, let's see what we can get with armor-piercing. The engineer has armor-piercing. This has armor-piercing. He has frenzy. This is a damage dealer, so no armor piercing. Pistoliers, no. Weak against armor. See, that's not good. Weak against armor, that's not good. Looks like we're going to have to build the engineer building. Another thing to consider, you see how it says infrastructure, defense, military support, military recruitment, resources, and landmarks. So sometimes you'll have these buildings that have landmarks. These are unique per province. Resources, well, these are just resources that you can trade. We haven't even gotten into diplomacy, and that's okay. We'll talk about it in the next video. But let's go ahead and let's get some income. Let's see. So this income building gives us 250. This income building gives us timber, which we can trade with diplomacy. Recruitment -20 for crossbowmen and spearmen unit. That's pretty good. But the income's only 100. I think we're going to go with the weaving house that gives us income generated of 250. Some other buildings to keep in mind as well. You can also build the farms, which gives us growth and casualty replenishment, which is pretty good. So once we have some growth, right, to upgrade to tier 3, you would need to have this number go to 1 and then 2. It'll take 7 turns to get to 1, and it'll take 14 turns to get to 2. However, we can speed the process up by getting +20. So then that'll be +40, which means we'll half it. If we half it, it'll take 7 turns to get to Province 2, which means Surplus 2, which means we can get the Tier 3 building in 7 turns instead of 14. I think we're doing okay with gold, so let's go ahead and build the growth building. Let's take advantage of this time as well. Let's see. Let's do the Golden Hounds. At the same time, let's start recruiting some units. So they're weak against armor. However, it's good to have some long range units as well. So we're going to get 2 of those, and then we're going to get some spearmen. Cool. That will conclude the first video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next portion of this tutorial.